Hi, good evening, everyone. So, today we are going to go ahead and do the revision of complete macroeconomics. And this PDF has already been uploaded on your portal. So, you can also take a note of this PDF from the portal. It's going to be a quick session. So, in a lot of places, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that you need to do those things yourself. I will just mark the important points. So, make sure that you read out those points and you revise them before we sit for the final exam. Okay. Now, the first important thing which can be asked in macroeconomics paper, it is going to be classical versus Keynes approach. So we need to understand all the assumptions of the classical model. सबसे पहला, the first assumption that we have is that the economy always works under full employment situation, right? Full employment का क्या मतलब है? Anyone who is looking out for a job is able to get the job, right? So my entire labor force can be of two parts, employed and unemployed, right? But according to Keynes, anyone who is looking out for a job, जो भी job ढूंढ रहा है, that person is able to find the job and we have a full employment level in the economy. The second thing that we want to focus on, that is called as Say's law of market. So Say said that supply creates its own demand. जब भी हम कुछ भी market में supply करेंगे, उसकी demand automatically खत्म हो जाएगी. Its demand will be fulfilled automatically. The next thing that we have, that is known as laissez-faire system. Laissez-faire means that we don't need government role at all. हमें government की जरूरत नहीं है. The market forces of demand and supply are enough to rule the market, right? And we do not need to go ahead and we do not need the role of the government. Then the next thing that we talk about, that is called as neutrality of money, right? And when we talk about, yes, beta, you're right. So full employment means that you include structural and frictional unemployment. Exactly. So I can say that my unemployment has cyclical part, structural part, and frictional part. Whenever I talk about full employment level, इसका मतलब ही ये है कि structural and frictional unemployment can be there. So you're right in that. Exactly. ठीक है. So next thing is money is neutral. ये बहुत important assumption है. Neutrality of money states that money is only a medium of exchange. That whenever money will be changing, it can only change nominal factors. That real factors will remain unchanged, right? The level of the output in the economy, the level of employment in the economy, the level of resources in the economy, in pe koi farak nahi padega money se, right? Real GDP of the economy, these will not be changed. Only nominal factors will be changed. Then we have perfect competition, closed economy, no money illusion. तो money illusion क्या बोलता है ना? Just take an example. So if I tell you that income of people is 100 and at that time price is 10, right? And now I am telling you that there has been an increase in the income of people to 200. So people will be very happy that their income has increased without realizing that at that point of time, the prices have also increased. So money illusion bolta hai that people just look at the nominal income without realizing what their purchasing power is, which is given by the real income. They do not understand that they should be considering the real income and they only consider the nominal income. Isko hum money illusion bolte hain. When we say no money illusion, it means that the money illusion does not exist. It means that people easily understand that when the income increased, the price level have also increased and their real wages unchanged, right? Then we have existence of two sectors in this economy. एक हो गया real sector and other is monetary sector. They said that the rate of interest it is a function of two things. कैसे determine होगा rate of interest in the economy? The rate of interest would be determined using the level of savings and investment in the economy. Right बेटा? तो ये हमारा rate of interest का equilibrium condition आ गया. They also said, if I just have to show this diagrammatically, that if this is my savings and investment, wherever, so this is my savings and investment, then wherever savings and investment meet, that will be the equilibrium interest rate in the economy. Now, the next thing that they focused on, that is the labor demand and supply. ये बहुत important factor है बेटा, बहुत ज़्यादा important. This is an important point to distinguish classical versus Keynes. बहुत important point है. तो क्योंकि क्लासिकल्स बोल रहे थे कि मनी इल्यूजन एग्जिस्ट नहीं करता है, they said that we know that only real factors can affect the demand and supply, right? So according to the classicals, the demand and supply of labor is determined only through the real wage. उन्होंने बोला नॉमिनल वेज का कोई काम नहीं है यहाँ पे, अगर रियल वेज चेंज होगी तब डिमांड या सप्लाई लेबर की चेंज होगी. As long as the real wage is the same, the demand and supply will also remain the same. So if you notice here, I have written that the supply of labor is a function of real wage and the demand of labor is a function of real wage and MRP. What is MRP बेटा? किस चीज को हम MRP बोलते हैं? MRP is marginal revenue into marginal product. So in a way, this is telling me the value of output created by labor. Right? So whatever labor is being demanded, demand, who is creating the demand of labor? The firms. So whatever labor is being demanded by the firm, it will depend on the real wage rate that exists, and it will depend on the value of the output created by the labor. Right, beta? Okay. And also remember that classical concept is a long run analysis. ये एक short run analysis नहीं है. This only focuses on the long run. Okay. Now there is something which is known as classical dichotomy, right? But ये इसी चीज पे based है that there are two separate sectors, real and monetary. And whenever we talk about money, money can only affect nominal variables and it cannot affect the real variables. Money can only affect the nominal variables and not affect the real variables. So देखो ध्यान से जरा, try to read about it. In classical dichotomy, we mean the existence of two independent sectors, real and monetary. There is complete independence. ये statement बहुत important है. It can come as an assertion statement in exam. हाँ, तो the independence exists between real and nominal variable. दोनों एकदम अलग अलग हैं, right? It acts as medium of exchange. Money impacts prices and only affects nominal variables, keeping the real variables unchanged. बहुत important statement है, and you have to make a note of it. I am pretty sure such statements can come in exam. So assertion में they will say that classical dichotomy suggests independence of nominal and real variables. Reason में वो बोल देंगे the classical suggested no money illusion. Something like this, right? They will give you an assertion statement and a reasoning statement. और ध्यान से देखना पड़ेगा आपको that this should be the reason for this. तो ये एक बारी हमें ये statements को बहुत ध्यान से read out करना है. Okay, now let's talk about the determination of output and employment. So according to the classicals, ये रहा बेटा हमारा production function. Output is a function of the labor employed, and ये जो equilibrium labor होगा, this will come through the labor market, right? So we will have equilibrium being decided through the demand and supply of labor. Wherever labor demand and labor supply will meet, you will have your equilibrium wage rate and equilibrium labor in the economy. And once this equilibrium labor is determined, so through the production function, output will be determined in the economy. ये आपका production, right? So once this is determined, you can take this to the production function and determine the output in your economy. Okay, now let's talk about the goods market according to the classicals. So according to classicals, whenever we have to find the equilibrium rate of interest in the economy, this equilibrium rate of interest will be determined through savings and investment. अब देखो ध्यान से, savings is an increasing function of the interest rate. जैसे जैसे interest rate ज्यादा मिलेगा, तो जितना amount save कर रहे होगे वो increase करेगा, right? The investment is a decreasing function of the interest rate. As interest rate will increase, the loans will become expensive. If you will have expensive loans, the investment will decrease. Also, keep in mind that whenever we talk about interest rate, right, this interest rate is always the real interest rate. जब भी हम सेविंग्स या इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात करते हैं, मतलब हम या गुड्स मार्केट की बात करते हैं या इन्वेस्टमेंट की बात करते हैं, we always go ahead and we talk about the real interest rate. But whenever we talk about the money market, जब भी हम money market की बात करते हैं, then we always talk about the nominal interest rate, right? So always remember that when we are talking about savings and investment, the interest rate that we are talking about, this is the real interest rate. उसका equilibrium हम economy में निकाल रहे हैं. Okay. Now this is just again something that can be asked in exam. तो जैसे उन्होंने एक statement दे दी that if savings are more than investment, the interest rate will. So when savings are more than investment, beta, we are here. देखो ध्यान से, I am here. Here saving is this much, इतना amount save हो रहा है, और investment is only this much. Saving is more, investment is less. So when saving is more than investment, तो क्या देखते हैं हम? What do we find out? We find out that with time, the interest rate will decrease. Interest rate को नीचे आना पड़ेगा. Equilibrium interest rate will decrease. So whenever savings is more than investment, the equilibrium interest rate decreases. Okay. Now, when we talk about classicals, the money market, ये तो goods market हो गया बच्चे. The goods market equilibrium, according to classicals, comes where savings and investment are equal to each other. Similarly, according to classicals, the money market equilibrium is determined through the quantity theory of money. So, एक बारी just try to have a look at it. See, the quantity theory of money suggests that MV is equal to PY, right? We know classical suggested that output is at full employment level. So output को हम fix कर रहे हैं at some level, right? So we can say that MV is equal to P into Y bar. Now what we can do here is that we can fix Y at Y bar. हमने Y को Y bar पे fix कर दिया है, right? And I am taking Y here and P here. रिवर्स भी कर सकते हैं. I could have very well gone ahead and done something like this, that take P here and Y here and fix Y at Y bar. Right? Now, in order to determine this price level, I want to go ahead and I want to equate MV to PY. जहां पे भी ये दोनों meet करेंगे, that is where my equilibrium level of price would be. So what we need to go ahead and do, we need to make a graph for MV. तो let's say M into V को हमने fix कर दिया at 100, right? So we know that if I take M at 10, V will be 10. If I take M at 1, V will be 100. If I take M at 100, V will be 1. So kind of a rectangular hyperbola जो हम बना रहे हैं, right? So you can try to see that this can be the diagram for MV. And actually you can have MV by P here, right? Because I'm taking just Y on the other side. And wherever the two meet, that will be your equilibrium price level in the economy. So this is how, according to classicals, the money market works. According to classical money market के लिए हम quantity theory of money को use करेंगे. And according to quantity theory of money, we know that MV is equal to PY. So MV by P should be equal to Y. According to classicals, Y is fixed at some level. तो मतलब MV by P को भी हमें किसी लेवल पे फिक्स करना पड़ेगा, right? When we plot this, we get some rectangular hyperbola, and wherever the two intersect each other, we get the equilibrium price level in the economy. This is what they suggested. Now this curve can keep shifting depending on what happens to the supply of money. So if I will increase the supply of money, then MV by P will increase. So this curve will shift upward. And when this will shift upward, price will also shift upward. A typical example of classical dichotomy. कि आपने money supply को बढ़ाया और उसकी वजह से price भी बढ़ गया, पर output remained unchanged. Right? So this is how they determined this is how they went ahead and determined the equilibrium condition. Okay. Now let's go ahead and talk about the criticisms given by Keynes on this classical model. The first criticism given was underemployment equilibrium. So Keynes ने कहा कि this is not justified what you are saying that we will always be at full employment level. It is very well possible that we will be below full employment level of output and therefore Y can be less than YF. Then the second thing is refutation of the Say's law. तो उन्होंने क्या बोला था से ने, that supply creates its own demand. तो केन्स ने बोला that if this would have been the case, अगर ऐसा होता कि supply would have created its own demand, तो फिर उस केस में तो there would have been never a recession or depression. But we saw the Great Depression in the economy. So this is also incorrect. Right? Then they said laissez-faire. That means self-adjustment of the economy. That means only the role of market forces. Right? फिर केन्स ने बोला that no, self-adjustment is not possible and we have the role of government that must be considered. Then Keynes said that, you are saying that savings and investment should be equal to each other. But what about how saving is getting affected through the level of the income? हमें income changes को भी consider करना पड़ेगा. So we need to consider the income changes also. Then he said money is not neutral because we may have money corresponding to it, wage and price rigidity. What if wages are rigid? What if when money increases, price doesn't increase immediately or wage doesn't increase immediately? We need to consider sticky wages. We need to consider sticky prices, right? So he said, no, money is not neutral as has been told by classicals. Then state intervention. So he focused on the role of the government intervention. Rejection of quantity theory of money. He said that, we can't just simply say that MV is equal to PY. We need to define money in a better way. स्पेशली व्हेन इट कम्स टू द ट्रांजैक्शन, व्हेन इट कम्स टू द डिमांड ऑफ मनी, हमें डिफाइन करना पड़ेगा वेदर इट इज ट्रांजैक्शन डिमांड, स्पेक्युलेटिव डिमांड, किस चीज की बात कर रहे हैं. सो ही वांटेड टू गो अहेड एंड टॉक अबाउट more about money rather than just talking about the quantity theory of money. And at last, he talked about the long run analysis being unrealistic. तो उन्होंने बोला कि we should be talking more about the short run rather than going ahead and talking about the long run. Long run is very unrealistic कि long run में full employment आ जाएगा या ये हो जाएगा या वो हो जाएगा. Let us first go ahead and let us talk about the short run equilibriums in the economy. So then this is the Keynes theory, beta. Keynes said that full employment is not possible. He said workers will suffer from money illusion. लोगों को ऐसा लगेगा कि हाँ हाँ बहुत पैसा आ रहा है. They will not consider that price is also increasing, right? And they will keep suffering from money illusion. Then this is very, very important. According to Keynes, the supply of labor is a function of nominal wages. Keynes को ये लगा कि वर्कर्स तो मनी इल्यूजन में, वर्कर्स प्राइस को कंसिडर ही नहीं कर रहे. दे आर ओनली कंसिडरिंग व्हाट इज हैपनिंग टू देयर नॉमिनल वेज. वो सिर्फ ये देखना चाह रहे हैं कि क्या मेरी वेज बढ़ रही है नहीं बढ़ रही. दे आर नॉट कंसिडरिंग दैट वेदर द प्राइस इज ऑल्सो इंक्रीजिंग और नॉट. सो अकॉर्डिंग टू Keynes, the supply of worker, it is only determined through nominal wages, but the demand, उन्हें ये पता है फर्म्स को कि हमें कितना डिमांड करना है. फर्म्स आर नॉट हैविंग एनी काइंड ऑफ मनी इल्यूजन. तो केन्स के अकॉर्डिंग जो डिमांड है, डिमांड ऑफ वर्कर, दैट इज द फंक्शन ऑफ द रियल वेज रेट. अकॉर्डिंग टू हिम द फर्म्स आर वेल इन्फॉर्म्ड. उनके पास बेहतर इंफॉर्मेशन है. दे आर वेरी श्योर दैट दे विल डिमांड बेस्ड ऑन रियल वेज, बट द वर्कर्स, they will face money illusion, and the supply of worker, it is going to be a function only of the nominal wage. Then according to him, money acted as a store of value also. तो हमें ये consider करना पड़ेगा that people can sometimes go ahead and store money and can use that for later purpose. And he focused on the short term analysis. तो उन्होंने बोला कि long term का focus नहीं रहेगा. We will be rather focusing on what happens in the short run. Okay. So, Keynes, therefore, he talked about money wage rigidity model. He said that बहुत जल्दी wages नहीं act करती हैं, and बहुत जल्दी prices भी change नहीं होते हैं, and there are a lot of reasons behind it. जैसे we have something called as menu cost, right? So once I have printed the price of something, I am going to change it very soon, right? So we may face from money wage rigidities, and we should be considering those, and therefore this is important, beta. Just read through it. He also focused on the minimum wage laws and efficiency wages. तो उन्होंने बोला कि देखो, even though it may happen that the demand and supply of labor gives you a certain wage rate, but the economy has government role in it, and government में से कि इतना minimum wage तो रखना ही पड़ेगा. So you may have some minimum wage law in picture, right? And at that wage, you may see that only this much amount of labor is demanded. So even though people are willing to supply this much, demand तो कम की हो रही है. And when there is a difference between demand and supply, it will go ahead and lead to unemployment in the economy. Right? Similarly, he said we need to consider efficiency wages also, right? And no, beta, wages are rigid. Okay. No, he didn't talk directly about prices. He talked about wage rigidity in his model. Okay. So then the other thing that we want to focus on is, what was I saying? So we want to also focus on the fact of efficiency wages. And when we talk about efficiency wages, iska kya matlab hai? That even though my equilibrium wage may be 100, I may still pay 120, I may still pay 140 to ensure that workers are efficient, to ensure that they keep working properly, that they're loyal to the firm, that they don't leave the firm. तो इन चीजों की वजह से वेजेस रिजिड रहेंगी, और अगर वेजेस रिजिड रहेंगी तो हम वेजेस को इक्विलिब्रियम के हिसाब से मैनिपुलेट नहीं कर सकते, राइट? And therefore there may be some unemployment that may exist in the economy. Okay, so just read about this part. Now we want to talk about effective demand principle. What is effective demand? So according to Keynes, he said that effective demand is that demand wherever your aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. जहां पे भी aggregate demand और aggregate supply equal हो जाएंगे, wherever the two will be equal to each other, that will be effective demand. But he went one step ahead and he defined something even more important. So he defined something known as ADP and ASP. Let me focus a bit on that first. So ADP, this is called as aggregate demand price. Aggregate demand price क्या चीज है अब? So according to Keynes, we want to not only focus on the demand, but we want to focus on the proceeds received from that demand, right? तो कितना पैसा आएगा जब हम वो डिमांड को फुलफिल करेंगे, that is called as aggregate demand price, right? So this is what he said. It refers to expected revenue from sale of output produced at particular level of employment. जब हम आउटपुट को बेचेंगे तो कितना पैसा, how much am I expecting, कितना रेवेन्यू आ सकता है, that became the aggregate demand price curve. Similarly, he defined something known as aggregate supply price curve. And according to him, aggregate supply price curve is the proceeds necessary from sale of output, right? And wherever the two met, जहां पे भी ASP and ADP equal हुए, that is the amount of employment in the economy. तो देखो जरा, this is the curve बेटा. जब हमारी employment 5 million है, तो aggregate demand pricing curve बोलता है 100 billion, and at that same level aggregate supply pricing बोलता है 90 billion. Then I increase the employment. If I will employ more people, then I will be producing more output. When I will produce more output, I will be getting more revenue out of it. So मेरा expected revenue बढ़ेगा. So my expected revenue is increasing. Now when I will have more people employed, तो मेरे जो cost लगेगी उन लोगों पे वो भी बढ़ेगी. So my ASP will also increase. So as my employment is increasing, both ADP and ASP will increase. Both of these curves will be upward sloping. Both of them will increase in the economy. तो अगर आप यहाँ पे ध्यान से देखोगे, these are the two curves I have drawn. One is called as the ADP curve. One is known as the ASP curve. And according to Keynes, wherever the ADP curve and ASP curve were equal to each other, जहां पे भी इनका intersection हो रहा था, that would be the level of employment in the economy. ध्यान से याद करो, the classicals said that the level of employment in the economy will be where demand of labor will be equal to supply of labor. According to them, both demand and supply were a function of the real wages, and this a function of MRP also. Wherever these two were meeting, that was the equilibrium amount of labor in my economy. According to Keynes, wherever the ADP curve and ASP curve intersected, that is the amount of labor in the economy. That is the amount of workers in the economy. And this amount of worker in the economy will help me determine what is going to be the effective demand in my economy. तो जितने ही लेबर होंगे उतना ही आउटपुट प्रोड्यूस होगा, and that will create the effective demand. बेटा ASP कर्व को आप ऐसे समझ सकते हो, it is like the cost I incur on the labor, right? So the total cost of production incurred to employ the labor, that can be called as the ASP curve, right? And this is the proceeds from selling the output. Wherever the two meet, that will be your equilibrium amount of labor in the economy. So this is what he said. Coming back to effective demand. So according to him, effective demand kahan par aa gayi? Wherever the demand and supply, or more importantly, the ADP curve and ASP curve meet, that is where we determine the effective demand in the economy. So this is a small diagram beta. देखो effective demand की अगर हम बात करें, so I can distribute it in two parts: consumption demand and investment demand. Consumption demand depend करेगी income पे, marginal propensity to consume पे, investment depend करेगा rate of interest पे, and marginal efficiency of capital पे. So this is again Keynesian theory, right? Now, what I want you to do is, I want you to read this, please, and make sure that you understand these points based on effective demand. ये इसके कुछ important pointers है which can be asked in exam, and I want you to go through them today itself, right? I'll move on to the next topic now. Okay. Now let's talk about the consumption theories. So when we talk about consumption theories, in consumption theory, the first important thing to understand is psychological law of consumption. This is basically given by Keynes. And he said that consumption is a function of current income level. Right? So he said consumption is equal to C bar plus small cy, where this is marginal propensity to consume and this is autonomous consumption. Right? And there are two things that we need to understand here. One is called as inflationary gap and other is known as deflationary gap. Inflationary gap exists whenever your output is more than full employment level of output. तो अगर मेरा output full employment से ज्यादा है, then yes, you're right, beta. Even absolute income hypothesis talks about the same thing. Correct. You're right. Okay. So if my output is more than full employment level of output, then beta I can say that it will be inflationary gap, right? Ab beta next thing aati hai deflationary gap. So deflationary gap exists whenever output is less than full employment level of the output. There are two kind of expectations that we have to study. यहाँ पे बहुत important pointers हैं बेटा. There are some names that you have to remember. So adaptive expectation and rational expectation. Now, in Keynesian, APC is greater than MPC. Correct. Yes. Let me just show you why. So beta Keynes said that C is equal to C bar plus CY. Right? And if I talk about APC, it will be C by Y. So it will be C bar plus CY by Y. So this will be C bar by Y plus small c. So this will be C bar by Y and small c is nothing but MPC. So this will be plus MPC. So when I add something to MPC, I will go ahead and I will get APC. So APC will be more than MPC. So you're correct. Yes, that's correct. Okay. So there are two kind of expectations then. Beta pehli ho jati hai adaptive expectation and the other is rational expectation. When we talk about adaptive expectation, it means people will continue making some kind of error. Every time when I will form my expectation, it will be based on what happened the last year. तो पिछले साल अगर गवर्नमेंट ने इन्फ्लेशन बढ़ाई, I will just consider that. I will not consider all the relevant information of this year, right? So adaptive expectation is also called as regressive expectation. It says that people will always make future expectation based on the continuation of the past. पिछले को देखेंगे, नहीं बनाएंगे. पिछले को देखेंगे, नहीं बनाएंगे. Right? This was given by Kagan and Narlov in 1956-57. Right? And this says that there is a backward working approach. Please try to highlight this point. Backward working approach. It means आप हमेशा पिछले साल को देखते जाओगे. Whereas rational expectation, this was given by initially John Moot, and that was given in 1961. And it is a forward-looking approach. You will consider all possible information. जितनी भी information market में है, मतलब अगर गवर्नमेंट ने आज कुछ पब्लिश किया है मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी से रिलेटेड, मैं वो भी कंसिडर करूंगी. सो एनी इंफॉर्मेशन प्रेजेंट इन द मार्केट विल बी कंसिडर्ड बिफोर आई फॉर्म माय एक्सपेक्टेशन. मेरी जितनी भी इंफॉर्मेशन मार्केट में होगी, मैं उन सब को कंसिडर करूंगी ही करूंगी. बट आई विल गो अहेड and I will make an error only if there is an information not known to me. जैसे demonetization, मेरे को नहीं पता था कि वो कल demonetization होगी, तो I will not take that into consideration. So I will go ahead and I will make an error only if there is something which is unknown in the forecasting. Okay. Then we talk about new classical versus new Keynes. Beta, I have gone ahead. ये तो मैं, I am just explaining this much. But below this, I have gone ahead and made all possible pointers to distinguish between new classicals and new Keynesian economists. Everyone will read them. Very important from exam point of view. तो एक बार ऊपर से देख लेते हैं. The new classical theory talked about policy ineffectiveness. उन्होंने क्या बोला कि कोई भी पॉलिसी इफेक्टिव नहीं रह सकती है. No policy will be effective. Why? Because people are rational and they have already considered all possible things into consideration. For example, if government announces that there will be increase in the money supply, so we know that this is the IS curve, LM curve. LM will shift rightward and the level of output will increase and interest rate will decrease. So ideally, we know that whenever the government would announce increase in money supply, there should be increase in the level of the output in the economy. But whenever this happens, if the people are very rational and they know कि अच्छा, money supply is increasing now, it means that prices will also increase, right? And if price will increase, it means that nominal interest rate will increase. But we know real interest rate will remain the same. So we should not be changing the level of investment. So if people are very rational, right? If people know that this will lead to this, this will lead to this, then this policy will become ineffective in nature, right? Because accordingly, people will ask for higher wages also. When people will ask for higher wage, then it would mean that, you know, there will be increased cost of production of the firm and so on and so forth. So it will have its repercussion effects in such a way कि output बढ़ ही नहीं पाएगा, right? So this is policy ineffectiveness proposition, which says that policy cannot be effective because people are rational and they will already consider everything into consideration. This is what new classical majorly suggested. Whereas new Keynesian, they majorly suggested that wait, even though these people are rational तो हैं लोग, but still you will see that policy will be effective. Why? Because there will be problems like coordination failures, right? Firms will not be able to coordinate with each other, right? There will be problems like market not being able to clear there will be problems like price war. There will be problems like sticky prices, right? So they said that even though you may think that market will clear and when supply of money is increased, log ekdam se wage bhi zyada मांग लेंगे, ये सब होगा. But wait, due to sticky prices, due to coordination failures, you may not be able to achieve ineffectiveness. And in the short run, the policy may actually turn out to be effective. So you just have to remember that the new classicals talked about policy ineffectiveness. उन्होंने बोला पॉलिसी इनइफेक्टिव रहती है, कुछ भी गवर्नमेंट लाएगी लोगों को पता होगा तो वो पहले ही अकॉर्डिंगली एक्ट कर लेंगे और कुछ नहीं हो पाएगा मार्केट पे. But new Keynesians, they suggest that policy can still be effective because of these reasons, right? So what I want you to do now is you must go ahead and read these paragraphs. I'm leaving this to you. You will read this. This is till here. This is all the difference between new classical versus new Keynesian. Right? Majorly based on this fact that I have just told you. Okay. Now let's talk about the different kind of consumption functions that we were doing. So the first one that we have is called as absolute income hypothesis. Beta, absolute income hypothesis bolta hai that consumption is a function of your current income. C is equal to C bar plus small cy. These are some of the features of absolute income hypothesis. It is a short-run theory. MPC is assumed to be constant. APC is greater than MPC. And MPC plus MPS is 1. Similarly, APC plus APS is 1. And MPC is between 0 to 1. Kuch properties hain which you have to be well aware of. The next theory is called as relative income hypothesis given by Duesenberry. So relative income hypothesis bolta hai that look, my consumption will depend on not only my income, but it will depend on the relative incomes that I have, right? So if my neighbor, right, he has gone ahead and maybe changed his door and he has a wooden door and now he has a different kind of ring and he has a different banner outside his home, तो मैं भी ये सब follow करूंगी. I will also try to see his behavior and I will also try to replicate his behavior. If my friend is going for movie every week, I will also try to copy him and I will also try to go for a movie every week. So the relative income hypothesis suggests that your consumption not only depends on your absolute income, but on the relative income. And yahi par we have the concept of demonstration effect. So the demonstration effect suggests that people are very much affected by how their neighbors and their friends demonstrate. तो वो जैसे जैसे कुछ चीज खरीदेंगे वैसे वैसे आप भी उस चीज की कंजम्पशन करोगे, right? Can anyone tell me what is this linked to in microeconomics? हम इसको माइक्रो में किस चीज से लिंक कर सकते हैं? The demonstration effect. Okay. Bandwagon effect. Anyone else? You're correct. So in microeconomics, this can be linked to the bandwagon effect. It says exactly the same thing, that I will go ahead and increase the demand of the commodity if my other people are also demanding that commodity. Agar baki log consume kar rahe hain, to main bhi consume karungi. Right, beta? Then there is another thing called as ratchet effect, which is also given by Duesenberry. And it says that if, ये बहुत अच्छा इफेक्ट है बेटा, ये समझ लो ध्यान से, वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, अगर तो मेरी इनकम बढ़ेगी then I will increase the consumption. But when my income will decrease, then I am already accustomed to a particular lifestyle. अगर मुझे आदत हो गई है that, every month I pay to Netflix. Every month I will go to 5 cafes. Every month I will watch movie. So if my income will increase, I will watch 5 movies. I will watch more movies. But if my income will decrease, I may not decrease the movies I watch क्योंकि मेरी आदत बन चुकी है. I have been accustomed. I now want to go ahead and I want to watch movie, right? So when your income increases, you will increase the consumption. But when your income decreases, you may not go ahead and decrease the consumption. This is called as ratchet effect given by Dusen. Then we have the permanent income hypothesis. Permanent income hypothesis is given by Friedman. And he wrote a book called A Theory of Consumption Function. And according to him, income can be of 2 types, permanent and transitory. परमानेंट इनकम वो इनकम है जो फिक्स्ड है, आपके पास रहेगी ही रहेगी. ट्रांजिटरी इनकम इज द इनकम विच में बी वन टाइम काइंड ऑफ इनकम, जैसे बोनस, राइट, जैसे प्रॉफिट इन द स्टॉक मार्केट, राइट, लॉस इन द स्टॉक मार्केट, एक्स्ट्रा टैक्स डिडक्टेड 1 month, राइट. So these are all transitory incomes. Now, according to him, your consumption is always a function of the permanent income and is not affected by transitory incomes. Then we have life cycle hypothesis. Life cycle hypothesis is given by Ando Modigliani, right? And according to him, जब भी कोई भी इंसान income earn करता है, he will go ahead and he will do the following. So let me give you an example. Suppose this person is aged 20 and he thinks that he will live till 80, right? And he will attain his retirement at 60. So what this person will go ahead and do now, he will first calculate the total number of years he is going to live for. So from here, we know that he is going to live for 60 years. Then he calculates the number of years he is going to earn for. And from here, we are clear that this person will be earning for 40 years. Suppose, for example, let's say every year he earns 1,000 rupees. So he will calculate his total income. His total income will become 40,000. And after calculating his total income, he will distribute it evenly for the number of years he is living. So he will distribute it for these 60 years, right? And this will become his per year consumption, right? So suppose if you solve this, let's say you get, let me take 1200 here. It will be easier for calculation. So let's say he is living for 40 years, every year earning 1200. So he is earning 48,000 in total. And he's going to live for 60 years. So this is going to be 800. Right. Now, think that every year he will consume 800. Every year he will earn 1200. So his yearly savings will be 1200 minus 800. That means it will be 4. So for these years, from 20 to 60, every year he saves 400. That means his total saving will be 400 into 40, 16,000. And he will use this 16,000 for consumption in the remaining 20 years. Right? This is how you can be asked a numerical on life cycle hypothesis. Itna hi puchenge isme, right? Okay, these are some of the assumptions. Please try to do them. Now let us talk about the investment function. So investment, sometimes when it is written as induced investment, it means investment can be a function of the income level, right? Beta, it ultimately depends on wealth and income only, na? So mera consumption, it depends on what is the income I earn every year. And wealth क्यों आ जाता है? Because in some examples, it may happen that every year you are earning 1200, but along with this, suppose it tells you that from your grandfather, you have received 1 lakh, right? So ultimately, you need to go ahead and you need to consider the total money that you have, and to smoothen out that consumption, jo bhi total money aayega, you will divide that with 60, right? So ultimately, how much wealth and how much income you have, that is determining your per year consumption. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead. So now we talk about the investment function. When we talk about investment function, we can say that induced investment hoga, so it will be a function of income. As the income will increase, the investment should also increase. But if it is going to be autonomous investment, it means that it is not affected by income, and I will be equal to I bar, right? Now, these are some of the determinants of the level of the investment. So there is something which is known as marginal efficiency of capital, MEC, marginal efficiency of capital. But MEC is the rate of return that you get whenever you go ahead and you invest your money in capital, right? Now, the equilibrium requires, there is a separate lecture on the portal in case you want to read through, but the equilibrium requires that MEC should be equal to R. I will keep investing till MEC, which is the return on the capital, is equal to R, which is the cost of capital. जब तक ये दोनों बराबर के ना हो जाए, I will continue my investment. If my MEC is more than R, continue investing, increase investment. If your MEC is equal to R, equilibrium condition. If your MEC is less than R, that is where you will go ahead and reduce the investment in the economy. Okay. So beta, autonomous investment is just going ahead and saying that investment is fixed. ये किसी भी चीज का function नहीं है. So whether income is 100 or 200 or 500, investment is fixed, right? Then it is autonomous investment. Okay. Now let us go ahead and talk about the accelerator theory and multiplier theory. So try to see that the, अच्छा एक और चीज है इसमें, हाँ. See, when we talk about multiplier, many students are confused कि अगर एग्जाम में सिर्फ मल्टीप्लायर निकालना आए, ideally no, हाँ. But MEC is in terms of value, right? But MPK is in terms of the numbers of output generated. So we may not say that both are exactly same. They are similar concepts, but MEC is in terms of monetary concept, right? So see here, rate of return, it is in terms of money, right? And MPK just tells me the additional output produced when an additional unit of capital is employed. Okay, so many students are confused what happens whenever you are asked about multiplier. If nothing is given in exam और आपको बोल दे कि find multiplier, then by default you need to find out the government multiplier. मतलब वो simple change in y due to change in g equal to 1 upon 1 minus MPC, ये basic multiplier पूछ रहे हैं, यही निकालना है, right? Otherwise, they will go ahead and mention it to you. Ki find investment multiplier, find tax multiplier. If nothing is mentioned, by default, we will go ahead and we will find the usual government multiplier, right? Yes, you're right, beta. It is in terms of the real factor, not real, nominal. It is in terms of money. I am comparing it with R, right? Agar real karoge, then it has to be both in real terms. So if you keep MEC in the real terms, then your interest rate should also be in the real terms. right? And if you keep MEC in the nominal terms, then your interest rate will also be in the nominal terms. Yes. 1/1 minus MPC, marginal propensity to consume, correct? Okay. Now, coming back to what we were saying. तो अब हमें बात करनी है बेटा, we want to talk about multiplier versus accelerator. समझने की कोशिश करो. When we talk about multiplier, multiplier asks us how income will change as investment will change. But then we have the coming up of Clark. And Clark ने बोला that there is a simultaneous effect, right? And simultaneous effect says that there may be the case that when you increase your income, जो हमने यहाँ देखा, when you increase your income, then your investment will increase, right? More, देखो, you can see it in the economies. जिन economy का GDP ज्यादा होता है, वहां पे investment भी ज्यादा होती है. So we realize that the reverse is also possible, that when the income increases, then investment also increases. So if we try to calculate this, that how income will change when investment will change, that is called as the multiplier, investment multiplier. But if we try to find out how investment will change when income will change, then that becomes the accelerator, right? This is what is mentioned here. Change in investment leads to change in income. Matlab, how income will change when investment will change, multiplier. Change in income leads to change in investment. Matlab, how investment will change when income will change, accelerator, right? The first concept of multiplier was given by R.E. Khan in it's not Khan, it is Khan in 1931, and it was called as employment multiplier also. I hope this is clear to all of you. ठीक है? तो ये रहा बेटा आपका investment multiplier का formula. This is something which was given by later Keynes also. And Keynes said that so try to see here that we may have a concept of leakage from the economy. And this leakage, it may be due to savings. It may be due to taxes charged. It may be due to imports. These are the three reasons for leakages in the economy. Whenever there is a leakage from the economy, money goes out of the economy, then at that point of time, we realize that there is less consumption. And if there is less consumption, then we know that any multiplier is given by 1/1 minus MPC. So if there is less consumption in the economy, it is going to reduce the level of the multiplier also, right? So Keynes said that the leakages can reduce the multiplier in the economy. जैसे जैसे leakage होगी, economy का multiplier decrease हो जाएगा, right? Now, the next thing that we want to talk about, that is called as foreign trade multiplier, right? Foreign trade multiplier, this is basically what happens to your output whenever there is change in the foreign trade of the economy. अब यहाँ पे एक बात समझनी पड़ेगी. See, we assume that exports are constant, right? Usually, exports will depend on the exchange rate in the economy, and they will depend on the amount of foreign income. जब फॉरेनर्स की इनकम ज्यादा होगी तो वो एक्सपोर्ट ज्यादा मांगेंगे हमसे, कम होगी तो कम मांगेंगे. Because we are not sure about the foreign income, we don't consider this factor and assume exports to be constant. But when we talk about imports, then imports are a function of exchange rate and they are a function of the domestic income. जैसे जैसे हमारी इनकम बढ़ेगी, then people will increase the demand for foreign goods also, and imports will increase. So we can say that imports is M bar plus My. As income increases, the imports in the economy will increase. Now, in such a case, if I go ahead and write Y is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M, I can write Y as C bar plus Cy plus I plus G plus X minus M bar plus M over Y. So if I just go ahead and I take all factors together of Y, I will go ahead and get this. And if I take it on the other side, I am going to go ahead and get this part. Right? Now, if I were to go ahead and find the government policy multiplier in this case, so I will put a D here and I will put a D here. Right? And everywhere else also I will put a D. And these will become zero. Ye zero ho jayega. There is no change in autonomous consumption, no change in investment, no change in export, no change in autonomous imports. So if I go ahead and I find dy by dg, this will be 1 upon 1 minus c plus m. And I know that 1 minus c, 1 minus marginal propensity to consume, this is nothing but marginal propensity to save. And this is nothing but marginal propensity to import. So we will get dy by dg as this factor. Right, beta? So this is what you can go ahead and find out. Okay, this is done. Now,